All right. That should do it. I have made sure that my video is correct and my audio is correct, so I should be streaming just fine now. This image should change to that. That's good. And I can minimize all that for now. Actually, I like that full screen, so when I come back to it, I can see if anyone's here. There were 2 people waiting, but there are 0 concurrent viewers, so I hope I didn't let anyone down. All 2 of you. I am not a mainstream YouTuber, and I am very rough around the edges, and I shall proudly remain that way as I work my way through this project and that, with the value of the experience being in finding my way through things. All right, so when last we left off, I was inquiring on how to make CodeGen work and to use it in combination with a default Chrome user profile. So I guess before I jump into the fancy stuff and look through the advice I got here, ultimately from Bard, because Bard knew more than Bing, even about coding, when it came to new stuff since, I guess, 2021, when they stopped crawling, or when the data set that it was trained from, the newest thing. So I guess to demonstrate what I'm talking about, I open one of these Linux shells, and I go a step at a time. I try just the word CodeGen. I don't think it's actually going to work, right? Not found. So it's under Playwright. Playwright by itself should do something. It brings back the list of commands that it supports, and among those supported commands is CodeGen. So it's Playwright space CodeGen, and it has its own set of options. But before we even use those sets of options, let's just try Playwright CodeGen. Oh, look at that. Looks like Playwright was just installed or updated. It wants me to do Playwright install. So Playwright install installs a whole bunch of browsers, and I don't do that on the DrinkMe script because I'm just kind of limiting it to Chrome. So already I can't show you the default because I didn't run this command yet. Now I can run that command and show you how it's, I guess we lean into strengths, right? Maybe I'll allow all these various browsers to be installed under the DrinkMe script. It extends out the amount of time it takes, but we do need to demonstrate leaning into strengths. So I'll do as it advises. Playwright install. This will install Chromium as opposed to Chrome. There's 2 different browsers. There's Chromium, which is the free and open source version, and there's Chrome, which I already have on here. And that's sort of the default because that was the default for Puppeteer. But then there is also, oh, that's interesting. That's okay. There's Firefox, and there's WebKit, which is the equivalent of Safari. So we've got the 3 main browsers there, plus some other supporting stuff. It looks like the ability to play video. FFmpeg is a codec for video. All right, that's enough. And so now that command, Playwright CodeGen, that didn't run before, now will run. It will pop up the CodeGen interface, which is very, very tiny, and the browser interface, which is shaded red to indicate that it's under automated control. Now, if I were to say type www.google.com into here, and I know the font is small, I think I will address that next. You can see it updates over here. If I were to search on something, I don't know, let's say SEO software. And you can see the search was performed right there. It filled in SEO software, hit the enter key. And so now, if I wanted to, I could take these commands from where it goes to Google, performs a search, hits enter. I can take those commands there. Actually, I want to change the language, the target language library, to Python. Oh, it is Python. Excellent. So there's going to be Python synchronous or asynchronous. Yeah, it's doing the sync API. Oh, import from. Let's see if there's a way to change that here. Python. Oh, there it is. Library async. I definitely need to get those fonts bigger. So now we have the await statements in there. And I will take from here to here, copy, and I will make these fonts bigger. I know that's a thing. And I'll go over here, and from the point where I guess it's just going to the site that gets replaced, right? The variable driven site is no longer used, right? That's just not used. I can, I guess, take that out, and then this should perform a search on Google. Up pops the browser. In pops, oh, I misspelled it. It should be SOFTWARE. But there you go, and it would sit there for about 500 seconds, but then it would go away. That's a piece of browser automation there. Everything about the browser is also accessible to Python, the Jupyter Notebook back here. So, you know, scraping, storing the DOM, doing further automation, whatever. Isn't that great? And now, sorry, you hear my cat playing with a cat toy out back. Oh, hi there. Yep. All right. Sounds good. You are my reliable audience out there. Life worth it. Liwi. Okay. And so now we're going to find ways to automate that browser more easily, because this needs to be me, right? See, it's in an incognito mode. It's also Chromium as opposed to Chrome. So I want it to be Chrome and I want it to be me. And I want all these fonts to be bigger. So let's take this one at a time. We'll close out of Playwright CodeGen, and we'll go back to where I was interviewing the AIs, and we will go to a question I had about making the font bigger. All right, I'm going to jump to the top and just say font. Nope, that's way too far. Scale. There it is. When I use a Linux Chrome browser under Windows with WSL2, WSLG on Windows 10, the Linux graphics are too tiny. They are not scaled up 150% along with the Windows graphics per the Windows settings. How can I scale up the Linux graphics? And Bard tells me there's a few ways. There's a force scale factor flag that we can use, but that's a Chrome thing. So I'm not even necessarily pulling Chrome up. I want it to apply to all Linux software. Another way to scale up is to use the Windows Settings app System Display Page. Under Scale and Layout section, you can adjust the scaling percentage for all applications. Do you think we'll find WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, there? I doubt it, but we can try. They're saying it's setting system, Windows Settings, System Display under Scale and Layout. Let's see. That's services. Whoops. I don't want services. I just want settings. Oh yeah, that's right. Windows 10. We still got that there, thank goodness. Display. Was it display? Oh, I lose track so quickly. System. Display. And there's 150%. Change the size of text, apps, and other items. See, it's not a multiple display issue. Maybe there's advanced scaling settings. Enter custom scaling. All your displays will be custom scaling. All your displays will be set to... That doesn't seem like it either. But it did say fixed scaling for apps. So I'm at 150%. And that is not carrying over to Linux. That's the problem. It makes things too tiny to look at. So it sounds like this one doesn't seem like it's really accurate. Under scale and layout section. Scale and layout, right? Scale and layout, 150%. There's no other things there other than the percentage sizes, except for advanced scaling, which I was just into. Let Windows try to fix apps so they're not blurry. That's on. And then custom scaling. All your displays. I guess we try that. 150. Maybe there is something won't be applied until you sign out. So we can't even see if that worked. Let's see what the other thing they recommend is. Third-party tools like Linux GUI Scaler. Free from the GitHub website. So I guess it's an itch that other people have had. And I'll take a look at that on the GitHub site because why not, right? So I'll do it from the GitHub site. I'll go here and then I'll search in their search tool. CPU Power GUI, Scale Viber. Maybe it's Google that will know. See how my cursor went down there? That is part of the browser wars. And we're in Bing even though I tried it. Look, this is browser wars in full gear. All right. And over here we can say scale WSLG. Scale WSLG 2021. Environment variables. QT scale factor. GDK scale factor as environment variables, do you think? Maybe? All right, it's easy enough to try. I can just type those into a shell like this. Remember, copy and paste is in very sad shape right now in Windows. You highlight, Control C, like 5 times, and that should probably do it, right? That does it. Export GDK, scale equals 2. Paste that in. And now if I go right back into the Playwright Code Gen, hey, look at that! 200%. Ugh, that's pretty big. Let's see if it supports 150 like I'm using elsewhere. That would be 1.5. 1.5. Playwright Code Gen. Hey! No, that's tiny again. So it's either this really tiny size or that enormously large size. Ugh. You know what? It's primarily for this video use, so I'm going to go with the large size, and that is these two values here. And when you want that kind of permanently to stick around, when you have any environment variables that need to be exported, that's saying it's exporting it to your environment variables of your current command line window, or Linux shell, or terminal, what have you. So all you do is you vim your ~.bash_profile. Now, if this works, I'm actually going to have to put it in DrinkMe, because this is reestablished all the time through DrinkMe. And I put those two things in, I save and quit, I close out of there, and I go back in. And now if I were to do playwright cogen, it'll jump up at that ridiculously large size, but better that than unreadable. Now I will use controls now to get this into a more reasonable resized state. Look at how small that pointer is too. So even this didn't solve everything, right? But I still have that in my copy buffer, so it's time to document this to scale Linux graphics under WSLG to 200%. You can put this in your .bash profile. And if I wanted to make this permanent in like the whole DrinkMe thing, right? All I do then is I jump over to an available command line, cd into DrinkMe, and those files are named the same way here. So I can vim from the current directory bash profile, and I do exactly the same edit. Now anyone who uses the DrinkMe script actually git commit scaling Linux graphics to 200%, git push, all right, now anyone using the DrinkMe script will get their Linux graphics at 200% the same way I am. And just for your information, let's see, it's about 12:20. I only have until 1. I've got a 1 o'clock meeting, so I will go until 1 with this. And I guess let me do the big picture again. Big picture again. Big picture again. Being an advocate of Linux, Python, Vim, and Git, other tools like Jupyter itself and browsers in general fit in the best they can. They're not the primary focus, and they get used in similar ways one might use regex or SQL. These are also not, primary features of most languages, of most environments, languages. But they get layered in with a back-end engine. Same with browsers and browser automation. So we're really using the browser itself. This should actually be bullet listed, so we're really using, there is the browser itself, but But then there's also the dev tools protocol. DevTools protocol. I think that's the best we can, describe it as. And Node. We're using Node.js. Like it or not, the engine. All right, so that's the big picture, because when you have to do stuff and it's not falling directly under your traditional tool chain, you've got to use other things, and it is different worlds, and in those different worlds you've got to get used to their nuances, and the nuances we have to get used to is paths, and context, right? Keep the same browser context in experimenting with automations, and the scripts themselves that perform, that experiment with experimenting with automations, let's say recording animations. The same browser context between recording animations and automations and scripts, and the scripts themselves that perform the automations. You'd think it's the same thing, but it's not. You're either experimenting or you're playing back a script that does the job. And you're trying to get these two worlds as close to each other as possible so that you don't have to adapt and change and jump through hoops, right? We're minimizing the hoops you have to jump through. We do this to simplify issues regarding user logins, permissions, cookies, etc., session stuff, and paths, selector paths, browser select, browser element select, selectors, because it's not always a path. CSS, XPath, etc. All right, I go for that. So we're doing a breakthrough. Once I have this breakthrough, the thing is, once I have this simplifying breakthrough, it opens the floodgates for more work, for more automations. This is the tooling work that enables next level SEO and data science, data collection. Now, ironically, I probably won't have to do so much of this data collection because a lot of the data that I'm going to need is going to be pre-processed for me and put somewhere where I can query against it much easily. That's coming up. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to use APIs to their greatest effect, and I'm going to use web user interfaces that don't have APIs. The web user interface itself is the API. I'm going to use those to great effect, and I'm going to come up with alternative ways to do a project. Here's the way you would do it through formal APIs and informal browser automations. And then here's the way it can be done with cloud-based data warehousing type product that does a lot of pre-baking of your data. The process is ETLs. So for people, the fancy word, it's not my favorite word, but you know, we're doing ETLs, which are extract, transform, load, process. The browser automation part is is, let's see if is the extract part. The transform part is, yeah, well, we don't have to talk about the transforms yet. That's a whole different thing, different set of videos. We're talking about the extract. So now that we have this ability, Playwright Code Gen, we need to get that to come up in a more usable size. Now we could start interrogating the AI again, but whenever you have something that like Playwright that has built-in help, you're usually going to find Playwright in the next thing down also having help if you do either of these. So the way that pattern works is Playwright Code Gen -- help or single -h. And here is the help data for that. I happen to be able to scroll it all into view. Yes. Oh, there's some examples down there. I guess I'll go one more smaller. That fits it all. So when you use Code Gen, you can define your browser, -b browser. And that can be either Chromium, Firefox, or WebKit. What about just Chrome? The default is Chrome. So I think I have a way of doing that, but I'm not going to just jump to that right away. I want to see if there's other things. So there's viewport size, right? There's a good one. All right. Okay, let's try that right out of the bat. So that doesn't have an abbreviated version. So when it doesn't have an abbreviated version, you have to use the verbose version. And it's giving you an example in quotes. So see how that's in quotes there? So we're going to pull up Playwright Code Gen, put in that, and then put in, I don't know, let's say 800 across by 600 up and down. And see if that keeps the Chrome interface manageable. Well, it certainly improved this window. It didn't necessarily improve this window. And you don't have arrow snap either, so you can't arrow snap that into place. However, for the purpose of the videos, it's going to be infinitely more useful. I can switch my target library to Python async, and then I can do things like, let's visit the Moz site. Did that change in there? Let me not cover one with the other. Free tools. Yeah, there it is. See, I'm clicking and it's doing stuff there. I'm not logged in, so I'll just click around, right? These paths are actually interesting. Now, it has things like get by text and then the nth item 1, right? So there are little issues I'm going to be getting used to here, right? These paths are the things I really want to know, because I am going to systematically work my way through the product and, you know, kind of click my way through everything. So already here, if you want to see me click my way through, it'll be really fast. I'll probably put some timeout in there, but I can take that right now and I can go over here and replace these ones that I did for the Google search. I just put that in there, I run that, and you'll see Chrome just magically pop up, go to Moz, and now it'll click through those locations because I am similarly not logged in. It should run in pretty much the same context. There it is. It got down to Moz bar. And that was the last thing. It just went so fast you could hardly see it. So I'll have to decide whether to keep it's small here, even though it's big over there. And to change the environment variable of how this is launched, I'm actually not sure. It might just be quitting out of Jupyter and re-entering it. Depends on the context of the terminals through which things are launched, whether they use my bash RC or not, or my bash profile, Freudian slip. If it doesn't use my bash profile, oftentimes you can put this in the bash RC where it is used more often. Interactive consoles use bash profile. Non-interactive, all consoles use bash RC. There's some subtle differences here. These are Linux, a certain flavor of Linux rules that you get used to. But at any rate, that it's already kind of becoming a very large success here, right? I'm super happy with the direction this is going. I'll check in on the people who are maybe with me on chat. Yeah, it's still just the one folks. Sometimes people pop in, but this is good. This is as much for myself. I have to keep telling myself that because, you know, it's hard to not be affected by number of viewers or whatnot. But it doesn't really matter because while I do enjoy doing this for you, I am just as much doing this for myself, right? I lost my pointer. When you lose your pointer, it usually has something to do with the streaming technology. So if you go back to where you were streaming from, poke around a little, you get your pointer back. All right, so I cleaned this a little because this was demonstrating a different point and it just confuses things. So I have some ability now to record and play back here. However, I want this to be my genuine logged in Chrome so that when I do stuff, it gets it on. I can do it. I can log in once via Chrome, and the login stays as I switch between Chrome and Chrome directly and Chrome from under Jupyter Notebook. All right. I asked an AI how to do this, and the AI told me this, export Chrome user data, which is actually quite interesting because this might mean I have to get these environment variables working Jupyter side, which is fair, And then when you do run Playwright CodeGen, you use some JSON files that apparently are going to be connected to your environment variable. How will it know? Well, I guess we try. We try that by doing a before and after over here. So you can see it's Chrome, and you can see it's Chrome because it doesn't have my my login graphics around it. You'll see what I mean in a second. I'll do a before and after. This is running this just again the way it was. And it's incognito mode, right? Chromium, see there's the word Chromium, incognito. Good mode to be in for general surfing, for general scraping jobs. However, when you're doing logins and stuff, you want it to be you. So I do that export, and now I just bring the same exact command up again. I know I'm not giving it everything that it said in the example, but I'm going step by step. It hasn't switched to either Chrome or my account. And then the other thing they say in that example is that when you run it, you want to have a save storage and a load storage. So I'll put that over here after the command. All right. That should create a save storage and load storage location. Oh, no such directory, file or directory. So something probably needs to create this file. Once this environment variable exists, there's a very likely chance that there's a tool in the picture that's going to write this file out, maybe from your environment variable, so that when you run this command, it has a place to read it in. Load storage, this is where it reads it in. This is where it writes it out. So any changes in what you do persist. This is the line that makes it persist once you're done with CodeGen, but this is the one that makes it load in correctly in the first place. So in these points that it's giving me, the points that Bard is giving me, it says, in this example, the auth.json file will be saved such and such. And then I ask, is CodeGen unable to use user? I read this before. Yes, it's unable to use it. You need to set that environment variable to the location of the user profile. So I'll double check if I have that address correct, because I do have that location sitting here. This is the address. So if I don't have it correct in that command I just did, I'm going to have to put it in from here. Copy, 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 copy. Go back to this command, the environment variable command, and then I look to see home user.config Google Chrome. I think that's what I'm using. Home Ubuntu. Ah, good. There is still hope. I change my environment variable to the value it actually should be, and then I go back to this. Same error. It can't open a file that needs to be here. Although the advice I gave, and I might have to go back to documentation, is saying that, once you set that environment variable, this next command is supposed to work. See, they have them one after another. But that is not true. By exporting this does not come into existence. So there's some information that it's not giving me, or misgave me, or whatever. Playwright CodeGen command. CodeGen will generate a file called auth.json. See, it still doesn't really answer it. All right, I'm going to re-ask the AIs a question, and I'm going to go right to Bard, because Bing has proven that it really doesn't know. And so for Bard, can Playwright CodeGen work with Chrome, parenthesis, not Chromium? It was able to help me before. All right, I'm going to go to the Playwright CodeGen page, and again, I'm going to force it through Google, google.com, Playwright CodeGen. This is playwright.dev, docs CodeGen, test generator. All right, in VS Code. So all roads lead to VS Code. So I'm down here, and the mention of Chrome is up here. preserve authenticated state. So we might end up leaning into strengths. You can preserve the authenticated state, but it's still going to be Chromium under CodeGen. And I might have to say good enough is good enough. This session might really be about me accepting the fact that CodeGen doesn't necessarily work with just any browser. It might just work with Chromium. Emulate a viewport, emulate devices, emulate color scheme, emulate geolocation and time zone, preserve authenticated state. That's definitely, record using a custom setup. Let's see if that says anything. If you would like to use CodeGen in some non-standard setup, for example, browser context route, it is possible to call page pause that will open a separate window with CodeGen controls. Oh, so if you're in the midst of a normal session, you may be able to bring up CodeGen interactively. It's giving an example. As a JavaScript example, I'd like to get the Python example. All right, so you're in the midst of an automation. Make sure you run headed. Pass any options. Await some route. Page await context dot new page. Await page pause. Page. These seem like pause the page and start recording manually. Pause the page and start recording manually. What do you think? Do you think there's any chance at all that this is going to pop up? CodeGen. I'll do it right after here. See, that page without an await is fine. That's how that stuff is kind of done here, initiating it, and then that. So I do that. And up pops Chrome. Chrome will click a few links. I'm going to have to work on the timeout things so that it doesn't just zoom by, but you saw it kind of zip down and show across those. And now an error. Name context is not defined. All right, that's fine. Await context. There might have been an import at the top of this that I missed. Await context.new. Context equals. Really? All right. I don't know what this is doing, but that's where context is defined, so I guess I pick that up. Put that above what I just put in. And try running it again. Oh, I didn't quit out of this. You're always going to get an error right away if you didn't quit out of your last browser. It's smart that way. That's the desired behavior, so you don't get simultaneous instances of browsers. Boom, 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 boom. And an error. Browser context object has no attribute new context. New context. Yeah, indeed, there is no new context in there. So an instance of the browser object is created here. Oh, and it is Playwright Chromium. This should really be Chrome. I thought it was Chrome. I think it's Chrome. Channel Chrome. Yeah, I'm doing a lot of things in here that would not be possible if it were not actually Chrome. There's a Chrome exe here. I'm pointing right to the Chrome binary. So, yeah, I don't think that was a pipe dream to hope that the code gen would come up right inside with actual Chrome. So what I'm going to do is probably wrap up because I got a meeting in 10 minutes. And when I stream again, it's going to be going to be logging in on Chromium and making those sessions persistent, and have the same login on Chromium for CodeGen, and as the same login as I have on Chrome and under the Google, under Jupyter Notebook. And if I have any problems, I'm going to bring the one in Jupyter Notebook in sync with CodeGen, because it's more important to get this right than it is to have a genuine Chrome browser. Either way, I'll have my genuine user profile and persistence just through different routes. In one route, you can use your real Chrome user profile from your hard drive, your user data. That's my same as when I run Chrome manually under Linux. And the other way just explicitly makes it saved and loaded, but it doesn't have a pre-existing profile. So you're going to have to do the login, force that saved login to be stored, and then work off of the auth JSONs instead of working off a profile on the drive from a real Chrome. I think I got it. I think I got it all articulated. So yeah, I guess I'll wrap up there. There's not much more to say. I will probably tend to executing this command and then actually logging in on Moz and making sure that that file that I create is in a good spot. I don't think I'll have it in DrinkMe. I think I'll put it under the Moz repo, under assets, where I keep that other asset, which is the Moz creds, which is my API secret key and my API ID that I use for the links API. So it's all starting to come together. It's gradually congealing in my mind, and these tutorials will get tighter and better and more useful. Yes, that's it. And I will wrap up by just letting you see my kitty. Say hello, Uri. A different kitty than before. This is Uri cat. The other one was Linny that you met. So, thanks for joining me. If you got anything to say, get it in quick. I'll close this, which will pop it back over here. And yeah, I wrap up there. And later, Gators, I will talk to you soon.